I want to give a public thank you to my wife who's here. This is my 6th year coming Sunday and Tuesday nights to Night Seder, and I usually leave right about bedtime. So a special akaras atov to her that I'm able to get out. They say Yaakov Avinu established Ma'ariv for that reason, right? But that's not the reason why I come here to Y High twice a week. But it's great. 6th year and it keeps getting better. I think we have a public relations nightmare when it comes to Hanukkah. So many of you know that I work as an oncologist at the Cleveland Clinic. And when I talk to my patients, I've had some interesting discussions this week where some of them have asked about what's this holiday, Hanukkah, and the only symbolism they know of Hanukkah is the menorah. They know that there's a light. They don't know what the story behind it is in any way. And usually I start to tell them about it. I say, you're not going to believe this. Many, many years ago, there were Greeks, and you won't believe what they wanted to do to the Jewish people. They were persecuting them. Can you believe it? It's like Ki'ilu 2023. And then I go walk through the story with them. But they know nothing about the holiday. They know nothing about the Yom Tov other than the candle. And it struck me as a little bit bizarre. Why is it that out in the world, and frankly, even among us, the symbolism for Hanukkah has very little to do with the miraculous victory of Rabbi Biyad Ma'atim, of many people that fell to the few Jewish fighters. That's not what we memorialize in a practical way. Really, all we do is we light this symbolic menorah, which is a remembrance and symbolizes a small pach shemen, a small little can of oil that lit for longer than it needed to. The modern day example would be if you looked at your phone and there was 20% and miraculously it lasted you all of Night Seder, right? It's not a lamala min hateva. It's not a beyond natural phenomenon that a light that you thought was only going to last a short period of time actually lasted longer than it needed to last. Why is that the symbol? The only mitzvah we have on Hanukkah beyond any other Yom Tov. Hallel we have for other Yom Tovim. Laning we have for other Yom Tovim. It's just this menorah, and this has become the international symbol of Hanukkah, both within the Jewish community and beyond. I heard an incredible question that I think will help answer this from the singer Eitan Katz. I guess he's a Rav in Efrat, and he's also a singer, and he asked a similar question. He said, we sing and we say the words uminosar kankanim from the leftovers of the jugs na'asanes lashoshanim. It was the leftover of the oil from which a miracle came through. And the language is a little bit strange. The language makes it sound like minosar. There was something left over. There was a leftover jug. The Greeks were meticulous people. When they set out to destroy the city, when they set out to destroy the temple, when they set out to destroy the Jewish people, they weren't leaving things left over. They were meticulous. So why did they leave over minosar kankanim? Why did they leave over this little jug of oil? What's that language of something being left over? And Rabbi Katz answered. He said, "That's exactly the miracle." How's it going? You want your name? This way he's on video. So he gave a remarkable answer. He said the following. He said the difference between the Greeks and the Jews then was exactly the approach to the minosar kankanim, to what seemed like something that was so insignificant. The Greeks said, okay, I see a little jug of oil. What possible potential can come from that oil? It means nothing. It's nosar. It's a little piece of something that's left over. It means nothing. And the Jewish people saw it and they said, no. They said, even though this is a minor, seemingly insignificant item, we're going to light it and we're going to bring about all of its potential and even beyond what nature will allow this amount of oil to light. And we see something very similar a few weeks ago when Yaakov Avinu, Vayivasar Yaakov Levado, Yaakov was left over, what did he go for? He went for Pachim Ktanim, right? Interesting, a similar, we talk about the Pach Shemen, the little jug of oil, and Pachim Ktanim, the small jugs that Yaakov traveled across the river alone at night to try to get. Why? Because there is a value on the small things. And I think in many ways that's maybe the message, maybe that's the nace, maybe that's the miracle, maybe the charge, the challenge, the avoda of Hanukkah. It's to say, ultimately maybe it's those seemingly insignificant small things that really can make all the difference. Sure, there was a massive military victory that was unexpected. It was miraculous. But at the end of the day, what's really meaningful about the Yom Tov, what's really meaningful about the holiday is that somebody said, I see something so small, I see something so insignificant, I see something that really shouldn't matter, and ultimately it's the small things that matter. And not just the small things. I was talking to the guys by Night Seder last night and last week about this idea. The seemingly small things. I said, there are certain things, for instance, that we can not monitor outside of the Beis Medrash that you might want to look at on your phone. But the small few minutes in Night Seder that you can turn that off and not look at that can mean everything. Spoke about the idea that, sure, 45 minutes of learning is a lot, and that's a lot. That's the miraculous. To learn 45 minutes is the victory. To learn 45 minutes would be the equivalent of Rabbim Biyad Ma'atim. That's not feasible. But what is feasible is the idea of saying, for 5 minutes, I can put my phone down, and for 5 minutes we can pay attention. And it's the small things that really make a difference. And you might say, the small things, do they really matter? Do they really matter? There's an English Musar Sefer called Atomic Habits. Highly recommend it. It talks about what's the value of doing these very small things, even though they're seemingly insignificant. The value is because it transforms who a person is. It transforms who you are. If you learn an extra 5 minutes at Night Seder where you otherwise would be on your phone, it's not, I'm a red guy who maybe learns a little bit at Night Seder. No, you become a person who learns at Night Seder. It transforms who you are. When you look at a small Pach Shemen and you light it, and you say, I'm not going to look at it as something insignificant, it transforms the entire avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. It makes something that wasn't there, and it makes it last for 8 days. And I think that's why, even though there was this massive military victory, military miracle, ultimately the emphasis is not on the great things. The emphasis is on the baby steps. The small Pach Shemen of Hanukkah, the Pachim Ktanim that Yaakov Avinu went back to get. The small baby steps that ultimately produce greatness. So I'll just close with that. A message for Hanukkah. Not so much to focus on the large and the big and the grandiose and the miraculous miracles of victorious militaries, but rather to focus on the small things, the baby steps that ultimately lead to a wonderful Yom Tov, to a wonderful 8 days of celebration, where the symbol becomes not the wild victory, but rather a symbol of something so small that became so great.